no cuesta nada.
Candela, se quema la chumbamba. Candela, se quema la chumbamba.
Mamá, mira que me quemo, mamá, que me estoy quemando. Es no quemándome yo, ay, que se queme el mundo entero.
Candela, se quema la chumbamba. Candela.
I got to know him by having him help me bounce ideas off of, and like especially the curatorial aspect of my first show. So he was really helpful in just like selecting images and like building a body of work, because it is really difficult as a photographer to know what is really strong enough to be seen and what's going to like benefit from the gallery setup. But he's not just a professor or a teacher, but he's also an artist and like someone who's just got more experience to impart to me as a student, and especially in the more practical aspects, like I mentioned, in terms of like selecting and curating and how you present yourself to the art world, really.
Well, this is work from an exhibit that's going to be here at the Sesnon Gallery. It's two certainly related projects that I've actually been working on for since 1994. In December of 2010, I went to Cuba for the first time, and Cuba had been on my kind of list of someplace I'm wanting to go, just because it has a number of factors that I'm really interested in, not the least of which it's sort of a place that's kind of has a very unique history, obviously, and has been sort of on some level isolated from the world, has architecture that's frozen in time. And last year, a couple years ago, someone who had been there said, "You better hurry up and come," because Castro had stepped down. And my vow was I wanted to get there before McDonald's did. So originally I thought, well, I'll have to go to Cancun and sneak in, and it turns out UC has had a license to do research there for 30 years. So I hooked up with the UC Cuba academic initiative. There's a number of scholars all over the system, and hooked up with a travel agency that specializes in travel to Cuba, and basically was able to take a charter from Miami. It was a piece of cake. It was very easy. It was the people that really attracted me, that they were incredibly universally beautiful. They were sort of they reflected the kind of cultural and racial history of Cuba, and with all kinds of more delineations than are here. And what I found was, in some level they were frozen in time, and in some level they were, especially the young people, were sort of more aware of what was going on in the world than their contemporaries here. I went back in July of 2011 because in Santiago, on the eastern side, they have a carnival that has a direct connection to New Orleans, in that many of the after the Haitian Revolution, a number of Haitians were exiled and went to Santiago, and then they were exiled from Cuba, and they settled in French-speaking Louisiana. The book is called New Orleans Suite, and it's co-written by my colleague Eric Porter, who is a professor in American Studies and History of Consciousness here. It's funny, we both started teaching at Santa Cruz the same year in 2001. And when I started teaching at Santa Cruz, I actually did a lecture at LSU in Baton Rouge. And for some reason, I got to, kind of on somebody else's dime, I was able to go there 2 or 3 times a year, probably from from 94 till about 90 to 2005. And then I got an artist in residency at the Ogden Museum of Southern Art, which is in New Orleans, and it was for the fall of 2005. And in fact, I was supposed to go there in August, and New Orleans is murder in August, but it was delayed because of another book. And then Hurricane Katrina hit, and you couldn't get in. The New Orleans Suite is really about kind of New Orleans both before and after the storm. The storm being kind of a frame of reference. It's not really about Katrina, but we were both Eric's people are not from Louisiana, but not from New Orleans, and so we both had a kind of mutual interest, and we were interested in the fact that, well, like when I arrived 6 weeks after the storm, literally, probably only about 10% of the population was still there. I mean, eventually, I think about half the people came back.
We invited Louis Watts to show his work, because I've seen his work on New Orleans over the past, 10 years, and really been interested in it. We've shown it in faculty group shows, and then he told me he has a book coming out. So I said, Lou, we need to have a show of your work. So here it is. This is New Orleans Suite, and then his book will come out at the end of, or in 2013, and that's with Eric Porter. We're going to do a second line procession from the gallery all the way over to the Digital Arts New Media Building, which is across the ravine, and because Louis wanted a bigger venue, a big screen that we could project some of his images and talk more in depth about this project.
Se quema la chumbamba, candela se quema y no cuesta nada.